Let me ask you something. Are you watching Formula One or are you actually seeing what's happening? Because if you've only seen the headlines this week, you think Mercedes might be leaving sport. They're not. But what is happening behind that narrative could shape Formula One heading into the 2026 season. If you haven't had time to keep up with everything this week, don't worry. I got you. In the next few minutes, I'm going to walk you through what actually matters across Formula One right now and what it means heading into Bahrain testing. Let's get into it. The engine rule change. So let's start with the biggest development. There is currently a push inside Formula One to change how engine compression ratios are checked, potentially in time for the opening race in Australia. Now, why does this matter? Because compression ratio affects power unit performance, efficiency, and how much potential advantage one manufacturer can extract from the regulations. The concern from rival teams is that a current interpretation of the rule could allow competitive advantage, and they want the measurement process adjusted. Ideas being discussed include warming engines before checks or measuring while running instead of static testing. Now, ask yourself this. Why would teams push for a clarification before race one, not after? Because in a new regulation cycle, early advantage becomes structural. If someone starts ahead, everyone else spends months trying to catch up. And any change like this needs political agreement. Within Formula One's governance, a supermajority is required, meaning multiple manufacturers, the FIA and Formula One itself must align. So what you're seeing isn't a technical tweak, it's a high-level paddock politics already in motion. Which brings us to a group you've probably never heard mentioned on a race broadcast, the Power Unit Advisory Committee. This is one of the bodies that sits behind the scenes shaping how power unit regulations are interpreted and managed. When there are disputes or concerns about engine rules, procedures, or compliance, PUAC becomes part of that discussion. So when compression ratio measurement is being debated inside PUAC meetings, that tells you this is serious. No final decision has been made yet. But the fact it's being discussed this close to the season tells you teams are already nervous about parity. So, is Mercedes leaving F1? Let's return to this headline. Mercedes to leave Formula One. Let me ask you a better question. We're genuinely preparing to leave. Would rivals be scrambling to close potential performance advantages right now? Not. What we're seeing instead is classic Formula One behaviour ahead of a regulation shift. Pressure, lobbying, positioning. This is less about Mercedes leaving and more about teams trying to ensure no one gains an early technical edge. Speaking of technical edge, let's talk about Ferrari, because Ferrari have already shown something important. Active aerodynamics are real, and they are working. Footage from Ferrari's early running has already shown the new active aero systems in operation. These systems allow cars to switch between high downforce cornering modes and low drag static line modes. And under 2026 rules, this isn't just a performance extra. It is fundamental to how the cars will operate. Here's the key insight. With increased reliance on hybrid power and energy development, reducing drag on straights becomes critical. Active aero helps teams manage that balance. So Ferrari showing this early isn't just a technical demo, it's a signal. Efficiency will define this next era. Now here's a detail that might sound small, but it isn't. The return of what engineers once called the Mousehole. This is essentially a design philosophy around airflow management into the diffuser area, using tightly controlled openings and airflow pathways to maximize efficiency and downforce stability. Under the 2026 regulations, versions of this concept are starting to reappear. And historically, when old ideas return in new regulation cycles, it means they've found fresh performance potential. So keep an eye on rear floor and diffuser behavior in Bahrain testing. That's where some teams may find early gains. Now, let's talk about something drivers and engineers are genuinely concerned about. Energy development mistakes under the new rules could cost huge amounts of time. We're not talking tenths of a second. We're talking half a second and even more. As team boss, Ayo Komatsu has already warned that mismanaging energy development could cost 6 or 7 tenths in a single lap. Formula One, that is massive. And it means early 2026 races, they could look really unusual compared to the previous seasons. Drivers might appear slow in certain sections, and that's not because of mechanical issues, but because they're managing energy. This is going to change how we interpret performance entirely. Oscar Piastri has already highlighted what he calls fundamental shift coming with the new regulations. He said more battery management, more tactical energy use, when to use it, when not to use it. There'll be more variation in how drivers approach races, going fast, using up the energy, going a bit slower so they can hold on to some of that energy for maybe later in the race. It's all going to change. Lando Norris has been even more direct about this. He believes the new rules will create loss in racing because energy development choices will influence overtaking opportunities and racecraft. In simple terms, drivers will have more tools, but also more ways to get it wrong. And that unpredictability could make early races fascinating. A quick one. If this is helping you stay across Formula One without spending hours online, hit that like and subscribe button to the All Motorsports Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. That's how this grows and keeps these briefings coming. All right, let's talk Bahrain testing. Bahrain testing runs from February 11 to 13. And this is where we get our first real signals of the new era. We'll be looking at lap times. We'll be looking for teams that run clean, teams who look comfortable with energy deployment, how stable cars look under braking and acceleration, whether active aero transitions appear smooth, and how different floor and diffuser concepts behave. In early testing, reliability and consistency will matter more than outright speed. A working car will be a powerful car this year. Testing runs daily in Bahrain, with coverage depending on your region. Typically, you'll get live timing throughout the day, plus broadcast analysis and selected live track coverage via official F1 broadcast partners and F1 TV. But remember, testing isn't about headlines. It's about signals, and those signals will shape the opening races of the season. So that's where Formula One actually stands right now. Not the noise, the reality. Like and subscribe to the All Motorsports Podcast on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube so you don't miss an episode. This is the All Motorsports Podcast, motorsport properly understood.